Hi guys, it's Chris and Jacob again here from the Pro Shop of Broadstone Golf Club at Custom Golf Performance.
Hi guys.
Welcome to another little vodcast. Following up from last week's or 10 days ago or so. Thanks for the guys who sort of sent in feedback and stuff and saying that they watched it. It's really nice to hear that people are being sort of into it and looking forward to the next one. So hopefully bringing a few more.
How many views did we get? Do you know? I think last time I looked, we were at about 40, 50.
Yeah. 40, 50,000.
Sensations, I'd say.
Yeah. No, I mean it's one of those where it's a start, isn't it? And you know, even for just to vent a few things and to get a few things out for like our own teaching and stuff. And I've had a couple guys sort of saying that they picked up on a few interesting bits. So I thought that was quite nice to hear. And guys that I've taught and stuff in the past have sort of, you know, sent me messages and stuff saying that they enjoyed it and that sort of thing. So
it's good. I enjoyed it. It was good.
Sweet. So just today's kind of what we're going to chat about really it's a pretty vast subject again in terms of the you could subdivide it into quite a few different areas, but under the sort of banner of coaching, obviously better players, different players, how you go about changing your lesson style, your teaching style, that kind of thing. Pretty obviously lots of different areas that we can kind of go down. But the conversation stemmed between me and you when I read a little post from a coach called Steve Astell, who does a lot of like sort of golf coaching webinars and like helps other coaches. So he's kind of a coach to other coaches. That makes sense. So like he'll put on like ways of helping people's businesses. Basically, he's really good. He like posed a question, and it was basically along the lines of, as a coach, if you were to just be paid from results, so if you were just paid money after 6 months, I think he said, just from your results, what would you or would you still coach in the exact same way as you currently do? And I was like, I just started thinking about it for ages, and I was like, okay,
so ideas came and they just kept coming.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, that's such a great question to ask. First of all, it's like because that's clearly how you should be approaching it.
Of course.
And if someone does come for a lesson and let's say they're going to pay you £500 after 6 months or £1,000 after 6 months, if they get their handicap down by 3 shots or whatever it may be, would you go about that in exactly the same way as you would normally just go about giving a lesson? What were your first kind of thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, it's like you said, it's a vast subject, and you can look at it from lots of different angles. The first thing that came to my head was, would I start thinking less technical and start thinking more skills based and stuff on the golf course? I think we touched briefly on it last week about getting on the golf course and working on skills and stuff. The difference between a technical lesson and a skills lesson is that you are purely focusing on how to get yourself around the golf course and leave shots, as opposed to the swing that you use to get yourself into those situations. So a good way that I like to look at it is, if you think of your body or your golf swing as a machine. You're a technical lesson, you're trying to tweak the machine. I'm a machine. I don't know about you.
pretty much is, mate, to be honest. An old rusty machine that's like being sat out in some sort of barn in a field or something for a few years.
So a technical lesson would be fixing that machine, or a skills lesson would be kind of changing the process of how that machine works. Do you understand what I'm trying to say there, Chris?
Yeah.
So it's less of a getting on the driving range and saying, right, you're in this position, you're delivering these numbers. It's more about changing the way that you can deliver the club to improve your scores on the golf course. It's a vast subject. We'll go on to different ways you can change this as we go through. What's your thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, when we kind of posed it out to the other lads as well within the pro shop, I know Adi sort of said that, if it was that short term, he would do loads of stuff different. So obviously he's kind of seeing more, like if he comes and has someone booking for a lesson for the first time, he obviously sees that as like, right, almost not a rip it up and start again, but like he sees it further forward than 6 months time. If in that example, because if it was, if 6 months is a short period of time, then he said he would go on the golf course more. He would do more like stats based stuff and more like scoring based stuff. And I think what it like, and I kind of was like, yeah, that's right. But is there that many people who come to us? Maybe with AD, because he generally gets more like elite players, and who are a bit younger and who are looking at them for a longer period of time, having lessons as him as a coach, so someone who's going to coach them as golfers, not just like give them a swing lesson. But like, is there? I mean, I don't know if I have that many people that I would really kind of say that I coach, if that makes sense. Certainly don't have that many younger players. Yeah, as a long term. I obviously have a few, and I have a few guys who come and have lessons regularly and that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of the big difference, is kind of the term in which you would kind of, you feel that you would be teaching someone for a continued time. And also then what they expect, what the player expects from a lesson, because if someone comes to you and kind of says like, and I think that's probably where as coaches, I would say we could definitely be better at like getting to the understanding of what they actually want to get out of their lessons.
Yeah, of course.
A lot of the time you just, and I think we sort of briefly said it last time, where you just get into that kind of natural routine of, right, meet me in the pro shop and we'll head up the range. And of course, as soon as you've head up the range, it's like, well, you're just going to start looking at your golf swing, aren't you? That's
golf swing, yeah.
You know,
and I think that was one of the questions that was posed, that sparked this conversation, was or certainly I felt like the way that a student looks at a lesson with one of us needs to change. The way that the industry or golfers have kind of put together the idea that, I'll go for a 45-minute driving range with one of my pros and they'll fix me, needs to go, because that's not the way you do it. It's more, it has to be more long term, has to start looking more on the statistics side, more on the golf course side, more on the skill set side, in order to improve. And hopefully this video will kind of shed some light a little bit more on why just going to the driving range and having a 45-minute lesson working on different positions in your golf swing might not be the best idea. We're in no way saying that driving range lessons aren't going to help you improve, because obviously we're PJ pros, we teach on a driving range, but we just exposed the secret of PJ professionals here. I think we're both of us, especially us at Broadstone, we're very good at breaking down the golf game, breaking down the game better than just the golf swing. Would you agree?
Yeah, and also, so you look at it from both sides, like the golfer who comes for a lesson one week and then comes back the next week and back the next week, they don't want to come and have the same lesson over and over again.
True.
Just as much as like we don't want to teach that lesson over and over again. We'll take money, we'll happily take your money for it. That that's we run businesses, like we run coach, we earn a living from teaching. So we'll obviously take the money to do the same lesson, but we're not just going to make stuff up. And there has definitely been times where I've been teaching a golfer, and you end up, you realize that you're saying the same things that you've said before, but you can't not, you can't not
of course
say that, because they've either not given it enough time, they've maybe not practiced it in the same way, and you end up just repeating what you've kind of said, because you can't just make up more information. And I think definitely in the past I've been guilty of just trying to make up stuff to make me sound cleverer.
Definitely.
More
cleverer. But that's just you trying to make sure that your golfer has the best experience that they can. And you don't want to say, let's work on this grip again, 4 lessons in a row, do you? You want to be able to add variability, and like you would if you're on a golf course.
Yeah, maybe it's just a case of sort of trying to still work on that thing, but then word it in a way that is going to make it click for that player, to make, But there are also sometimes that people just haven't practiced in between, and they haven't committed to making that change.
Yeah,
and that also, swing changes are really, really difficult. So that swing changes, you go.
We were. What's that? The analogy you use all the time? Is it Patrick Cantley?
Yeah,
I think it was you that said it. He was working on one technical swing for one whole year.
That was Tiger Woods.
Was it Tiger? I thought you said it was.
No, it's Tiger Woods and Butch Harmon. It's actually on that Tiger documentary we're talking about, which is well worth watching. But it's also on YouTube. Is it a Golf Channel? You've probably seen it. And there's a golf.
When he's like the proper old school one.
Yeah, it must be.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Must be late 90s, maybe.
Yeah.
Around 2000.
He started changing his swing in 98, so it would have been 98, 99, wouldn't it?
Yeah. With Butch and Tigers in there. And basically what he said, they're talking about a position with his arm, and talking about his right arm being like higher and further, like deeper and further back or something, I think.
Yeah.
But they're discussing a move in his backswing, and they're basically saying that like it's this small move which we might expect like to be able to give that advice and say, okay, just get your hands a little bit higher at the top of your backswing. That's taken Tiger Woods a whole year working on it, and he's how many balls is he hitting at the time? He's like a workaholic, like he's never going to be off the range.
Also, like probably one of the
best
most athletic people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, with the most talent like you'll ever see, with the best coach in the world as well. Explaining it to him. And it's taken him, like Dan Butch Harmon says it, like it took him a year or so before he got that move correct.
Yeah.
And it's like we would go up to the range and be like, oh, come on, Chris, like sort this slice out, like you've got half an hour. And then maybe not practice it, maybe practice it a couple of times and go out on Saturday and play and sort of expect, to be Tiger Woods. But it is tricky, and I think that is it's from our standpoint, and this can also, you can go from the player's standpoint as well, that as a player you need to be clear to your coach or the person you've booked a lesson with what you want out of it. Is it a quick fix? Is it something that you're looking for to try and change over a period of time? If it's a longer term thing, then like generally we're going to be more than happy to like put together a proper plan, and we'll invest into it as well. Like we want it to work, because it's obviously on our reputation, but be clear, like, and that comes from our perspective. We need to ask the right questions as to what's going on with the golf game in general, and in terms of ball flight as well. I mean, it goes back to the whole PGA stuff, doesn't it? Like asking the right questions about the ball flight. A guy comes to you and says, I hit a big draw, and the ball's starting 20 yards left and then hooking into the rough on the left. Well, that's not a draw. Like you're hitting massive pull hooks. But in their head, that's what they're hitting, a draw. But if you just took their word for it and went, okay, so your bad one's a draw, or you draw it and you want to stop drawing it, you might completely go down the wrong route altogether. So
and there's people I can think of now who I teach who are on that journey. They've booked a a series of lessons with myself, and the whole journey is to get their golf swing to a stage where they feel comfortable on the golf course.
Yeah.
And for some of those people, I've been teaching those for months really, and we some weeks you might have to go back and work on certain things, and other weeks we go back and work on the same thing as before. But the one thing within my coaching that I'll always employ is I'll always relate it to how you can work it on the golf course. I'll always say, this is going to benefit you because this is going to benefit you on the golf course. So let's say for example, let's just go real basic. Someone's aiming 10 yards left and they're missing it 10 yards to the left-hand side. I'm going to tell them to aim 10 yards to the right, and I'll say, this is going to help you on the golf course because you're not going to miss it too far to the left-hand side. Obviously, this is really basic, but then to them, that stops them thinking of the driving range as an open space, and it's going to then start to really narrow their brain down on what side of that flag that they're aiming at they're missing on. There's so many times when we go up to driving range and I say, so what are we aiming at here then, John? And he'll go, I'm just kind of aiming straight down there somewhere, and if we're going to now start to talk about kind of on course stuff, that is no way relatable to anything that you're going to see on the golf course. You're going to have bunkers on the left, trees on the right, water on the left. You're going to have to start practicing aiming a little more as though you're on the golf course. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's huge, isn't it? And that consequence of missing a shot is huge, isn't it? And
absolutely,
definitely. I think I would always try when I'm working with a player, I'd always try and sort of give them what they want in terms of like some swing help, but then not just tell them what to work on, tell them how to go and work on it. So how
definitely.
How if you've got 60 balls, if you bought 60 balls for the driving range, how do you split that time up? To me, that's where that's the type of thing that I really start to really feel, okay, if you do that, you're definitely going to get better. That's kind of what I end up feeling, and it's the most frustrating thing to sort of see someone that you teach him practicing poorly. And it's pretty common, isn't it? Like, how someone people generally practice pretty badly across the board. But if you can give someone that bit of information of like, right, okay, there's your 60 balls, you're going to do 25 like technique based stuff, then you're going to do another 25 where you're simulating some on course stuff, and then you might use the rest for some field based shots or other drills or whatever that you've got. I mean that's a huge part of it, isn't it? And I think it goes back to kind of being able to get enough information in the first like 5 or 10 minutes, and that's really where it's got to be quite a skillful thing to do, because you've got to get as much information as you can from that player in 5 or 10 minutes when the player doesn't even notice that you're doing it.
It's the most important part of the lesson. Most people don't, most people don't even realize that we're plugging them to get the answers out. But having knowledge of previous, what you're doing on the golf course is the main thing for us. As coaches,
and really listening as well. Like, because it's this is in all transparency and honesty, like I can't do it any other way. But there's times, I guarantee in any walk of life there'll be any business kind of walk of life, there'll be times that this happens where you ask someone a question and then they start giving you the answer and they start talking about something and you start thinking in your head about what you're going to say next. So you're like, so you ask them what, like, how's the golf been going? Like, how's the short game now then after last time? And they start talking to you about it. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to go. And you just fast forward and you start thinking, okay, I'm going to ask him about like his bunkers or, and then you realize that you've missed like all of this gold that they've told you about how they've improved or how they haven't improved. and they tell you, oh yeah, I'm still really struggling. You go, oh okay, because you're not listening. You're like, oh okay, right, okay, that's all right then. Yeah, but you get better, and you end up, you realise, and that's true that everyone's done that. I'm sure every coach, every golf lesson,
happens.
People have done that, and obviously you have to you have to catch yourself and recognize what's kind of going on, and then yeah. But I think really listening to the answers is key, isn't it? It's such a basic thing, but
Definitely.
it's so common to sort of to hear it but not really sort of take it in,
Yes, and that kind of brings me to the question then, Chris. So if you were a 15, 18 handicapper and you were, struggling with your game, or you just wanted to improve your game, doesn't matter if you're struggling, doesn't matter if you're playing to your handicap, you wanted to improve your game, what would you personally look for from a golf coach, with say you're a 15 handicapper with the knowledge that you have now of the golf game? What would you look for in a coach to make you better? What would you think are the standout keys that a golf coach needs?
Sorry, mate, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I knew you had that lined up because you've been smiling for about 5 minutes.
What's that, mate?
You had it lined up. You're an idiot.
Yeah. So if you had a 15, 18 handicapper, what would you?
Yeah.
What
would you look for from a coach to make sure that they're going to improve as best as they can?
I think it doesn't really matter what handicap I was, hypothetically, or whatever. I think for me it would always start like personality wise. Do I like the person that I'm going to go and have a lesson with? Absolutely. I don't want to, I wouldn't want to spend an hour with, or however long the lesson is, with someone that you didn't really get on with, because you need to be able to feel that you get on with them well enough to be honest with them.
Definitely.
And not sort of, not feel that you have to hide anything away from them.
No.
That kind of thing. And you want to feel comfortable enough around them that you can hit some crap shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't want to feel, you don't want to feel embarrassed about, so for me, it would be like feeling comfortable with being in
their presence
and being honest with them. So that would kind of be my number one thing.
Yeah.
And then it would just all be personality for me, really. Like I wouldn't really mind. I guess I'm kind of thinking, like, would I want them to have some sort of technology or some sort of fact-based things? I think I'd really just want to feel that they cared about golf.
Yeah,
that's kind of all.
I'm the same. So for me, anytime that I've ever been coached, not that I've been coached much, but first thing you look for is that they're interested in what you want, and they're invested themselves into what you want. Those two things there are probably the main priority, I think, for a golf coach. They've got to be as invested in it as you, otherwise, what's the point? And I'd say that I'd say that I invest myself quite heavily into my students. I'm always asking them. I feel like I'm fairly active with like messaging them and whatnot, and trying to see how their game's going and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the second thing for me, it's not necessarily technology. Obviously, having a launch monitor is going to make things so much quicker and so much more simple. But for me, it's having an understanding of what the technology is kind of showing us in our golf swing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of it comes down from experience from coaches. So if they've taught with a TrackMan, or they taught with a launch monitor and a video camera alongside that, having that correlation between the two makes it very, very kind of easy for the golf coach to understand what positions give certain numbers that impact.
Yeah.
So for me, as a coach, I'm always trying to, if I've not got TrackMan, if I've just got a video camera, I'd always try and work out what numbers that delivering down at impact. I don't just say, oh, it looks like you're coming over the top there, therefore your path must be out to win, because that's not necessarily the case, as we know. But it's all about, for me, it's all about knowledge and making sure that they're invested in your improvement.
Yeah, I think that's bang on, isn't it? I think it's just like any sort of customer service type thing, those messages and those kind of things that you're sort of saying that you you send to the guys that you're teaching and stuff. It's all just about trying to go just that little bit above and beyond, isn't it? A little further, a little text after a round or whatever it may be. I saw your score in the midweek medal, noticed your back nine was a little bit whatever, how did that feel? How did the swing change feel? Notice you birdied the sixth, whatever it is, like that. Those little touches can be really helpful. I had a really good example of that kind of thing where I had a player who it was during the first lockdown. I did a few of them, but I went on Intelligent Golf, and you can go on Intelligent Golf and you can see their stats, basically pretty basic, but you can see the hole by hole stats. And this guy was like a 5 handicapper, and the first hole was his second or third hardest hole at Broadstone, which is if you play, most people probably play Broadstone, short par 5 start with pretty wide-ish fairway. And it should be quite a scoreable hole, really, especially for a 5 handicapper. You kind of think, but the first was his second or third hardest hole, and the third was his fourth hardest hole, which is another iron or rescue and a wedge, in the season where all of his cards are in the comps in the summer and stuff.
Comps,
So that was when I was looking at that, and I was thinking, well, that's not right. So screenshotted the picture, the stats, and put them in a little Word document, and sort of said, just noticing this, this could be a little plan for you, for getting back on our feet, when we get back to doing some lessons and stuff again. Why do you think this is happening? And that was it. It's just opened up a bit of a conversation. He replied didn't have a clue that was happening. So it was he was either warming up, not warming up at all, straight out of the car park, straight onto the tee, or he was warming up, and he was warming up badly.
Yeah.
And he was just doing all the wrong things.
A couple in the net or whatever.
Yeah, or just he was just doing, he was doing all the wrong things before he went out.
Yeah.
Or he was just really nervous. He would just really struggle with his opening few holes in a comp because he used to got first tee nerves. And it turned out it was a little bit of a combination of all of them, but mainly that wasn't really warming up, and he didn't really know what he was doing when he warmed up. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. And it was all a little bit sort of pot luck kind of thing. So that was quite a cool little thing that I probably hadn't done before and should do more, probably should still do more of, but also quite an easy thing to go, okay, that's a little bit of a way of him knowing that I'm kind of we do care about the results that he's getting on a golf course. And I've definitely had lessons from pros where I just think you don't care about what's happening, you don't care about my golf as much as I do.
No. May as well just open up your wallet, chuck in the money, and walk off.
Yeah, and it is difficult, isn't it? No one cares about your golf game like you care about your golf game, do you?
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Let's not confuse it here. We are doing this as our job. It's our job. We're there to earn money. But at the same time, I really, really enjoy making golfers better and seeing the improvement over a period of time. Just going back on your statistics thing there that you did there, Chris. There's one of my lessons that I teach. He's probably, I don't know if he's watching. I might tell him to watch after seeing this. But he knows who he is. After every round, and I like you, I need to start doing this more. After every round, he brings me his card, and what he's done is he's filled in greens where if he's missed the green, is it left or right? Fairways, if he's missed it, is it left or right? And he gives me an extensive walkthrough every week of where it all went wrong. And for me, what that does is that builds up a really good database of patterns for what he's doing on the golf course. After 2, 3, 4 weeks of teaching, we've really come to understand where his faults and fixes are, and whether that is a technical issue or is it a skills-based issue where we need to then start going on the golf course. we've probably done too many driving range lessons, if I'm being honest, and he'll probably say the same thing, because his swing is great. He swings it really good. You know, he hits it lovely flight, hits it really, really far. His handicap's probably about 6 or 7 shots worse than what his golf swing is. So instantly, we need to start getting him on the golf course when this lockdown comes, or when we get out of this lockdown. But the statistics side for me is a massive part. Over I can't remember, when did we shut out all of those packages that we all did? Was that before or after the last lockdown?
It was before Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was before Christmas. One of those packages was using the stats.
Yeah.
So where I'd basically supply whoever took up the package with I think it was 20 sheets worth of like a stat sheet. You know, each stat, you know, green regulation, fairway regulation, blah 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 blah. Give me all of those statistics, and then we work out a plan on how to help with those, you know, the poor areas. So I think that's a massive part that's really coming alive now is the statistic. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a way of getting an unbiased overview of your golf game, isn't it?
Golf game, yeah, definitely.
Like the Honest Scotsman, I heard someone call stats. Like it's
Honest Scotsman.
Honest Scotsman, like just tells you straight, like this is happening. Like there's no like, oh yeah, I'm an 8 handicapper, but I'm really like a 4. It's like, no, that's exactly what's happening. That's what we need to work on. That's your factual information, isn't it? It's like it's not just a whim that the player's going on, that he thinks something or she thinks something's wrong with how they're hitting the ball. They've already got that preconceived idea. Oh, I think I'm lifting my head. Yeah. Like as soon as someone says, "Oh, I'm lifting my head," like straight away I'm going, "You're not lifting it. That's not the problem. Like you're not. No. It's not that you're lifting your head."
Yeah.
How am I going to tell this person that it's not them lifting their head when all they've tried to do for the last like 10 years is not lift
keep their head down?
Yeah. And, yeah, so it's definitely that the stats are the way of kind of gluing it all together and measuring your progress as well, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah.
Because you can measure, even if the scores may not improve straight away, if you're hitting more fairways and or if you know you're missing, if you're slicing it at the start of some lessons and you measure the stats, so you're now missing less fairways to the right, then you know the lessons on you slicing it or stopping slicing it have worked. If the scores aren't coming down, there's something else going on, you know.
Of course, yeah.
So and that's why, if you've got someone who kind of has that information to hand, or they track, most players these days have got some sort of GPS unit, like some way of measuring it. You know, it's acting on them, which is the really. You know, some people I've had players who just keep them just for fun, just have kept them for every single round for always. That's great. Yeah. But like, it's like, okay, well, let's act on it, which is the big thing. But yeah, they're great points. They're like really.
I wonder if Jeremy Heath will watch this video. Have you ever seen his game golf, Chris?
Not for a while, but I know
he a member at our golf club, Jeremy Heath. If you're watching, all right, Jez. He tags every shot, every round. I'd like to know how much he actually uses that to his benefit, though. I'd like to know whether he uses it for a bit of fun, just a view, or whether he actually takes it down and tries to implement changes. I reckon
he had lessons with Barry, didn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Barry would have used that, I'm sure. They would have. They would have definitely.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely looked at that, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure that it would say his short game is about 10 strokes over his handicap and his long game is about 10 strokes under.
Yeah, probably. He still wants to go and have a lesson on the range, I bet.
He's
done quite a bit. But that's that kind of classic thing, isn't it? I've had guys where you take it at face value, they'll tell you you're slicing it, or they are slicing it. You go on the range and they say, I'm slicing the ball. I need to sort that out. And you work for 3 or 4 lessons for a month or so, of then stopping slicing it. You get them on the range and they're hitting it dead straight and they're loving it.
Yeah.
And then I've had them go up the last in their 5 lessons was a playing lesson. Go up the second and they're stuck behind a tree up on the right hand side, and they've got a cut around the tree to get back up to the fairway or back up towards the green. And like straight away, they're still going through that whole process of what they were doing on the range to try and get this like perfect mechanical like looking golf swing. Actually, they've got to go and do like what they used to do forever on purpose now. Like, and that's a huge thing that we were saying about like taking it onto the course and how your skills transfer onto the course. Because golf isn't a game that just lets you try and get like one perfect swing and get you into a position where you're just hitting it straight, because the lies are always going to change. There's always going to be wind and slope and heather and stuff to go over, and there's going to be a water up one side of the hole so you can't hit a certain shot, or you've got to learn to be able to, you don't have to shape it both ways, but it helps to be able to know where you can and can't like hold one or cut one or draw one.
You think about wind, all that stuff. Yeah, wind, temperatures, layers that you've got on. There's so many factors that come into completing a round of golf to the best of your ability. It's not just making sure that your golf swing's perfect.
Yeah.
And kind of this comes on to my question, Chris. Would you feel golfers would benefit having more on-course lessons than driving range lessons? Putting that one out there.
I think if I had a choice between where I took all of my lessons, either the range or the course, and I had to pick one, I would go course.
Bang.
Every time.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I would. But this is the thing, like I would prefer to take every one of my lessons out on the golf course, but there's obviously logistic issues with that, isn't there? Time, getting a tee time, there's all that stuff there, and also some students feel like their time would be better on the driving range, which is one of the points that we made earlier. I think that the one thing that we've all done is we've all introduced on-course plans in our winter deals, haven't we? We've all introduced a plan which is heavily on the golf course.
Yeah.
To again start introducing more of this like skill set idea as opposed to the technical idea that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think the idea of like a playing lesson isn't necessarily to sort of never want to work on your swing again, but it's like it's getting a full idea of exactly what's happening, and ultimately when you are taking a playing lesson, I want to hear like your brain. Basically, I want to hear like from the moment the ball goes on the tee, like, or before, what is your brain saying? What are you thinking about? I've heard that somewhere else as well, but I want to hear what you're thinking. So where are you aiming? What shot are you trying to hit? All that kind of stuff. Like to get the most out of it. But really, it's a full like X-ray into what's happening on the golf course. And maybe again, this is another one. It might be worth experimenting with. It would be a great little study to do. Maybe we should do it when we come back out. Get volunteers. In fact, I'm going to go out and say, if there is anyone who's still watching,
this is a question from me too, by the way.
Well, yes, yeah.
Double-ended question, because I'm asking the same question that Chris is about to ask.
No, all I was going to say is if you're a 12 handicapper and above, let me come and caddy for you for 9 holes, and I bet you will shoot a better score. Maybe the best score you've ever shot. As an experiment, go and play 9 holes, and then go and play another 9 holes and let me caddy for you. Just 9 holes.
Yeah.
I won't charge anything. Just tell me when you want to go and do it, and I guarantee you'll play better. That's what I would guarantee. I don't know if you shoot the best score you've ever shot. Unless you do, in which case I'm like telling everybody about it in the world.
And charging you double.
Yeah, and that's it. Maybe do what we say. Only charge upon results. That's an idea.
Yeah.
Charge a tenner for every shot you shoot you shoot less than the previous round. What was it? What were you? Was that what you were going to say? Same thing.
I thought you were going to say doing that test that we were talking about the other day, or that study the other day about going just on the golf course as opposed to going just on the driving range.
Yeah.
And anyone willing to undertake like a full series of lessons where we purely do everything on the golf course. But
yeah,
you know, like we said, there's logistics involved there and stuff like that. So I'm sure we'd get around it somehow.
But yeah, I think what we kind of said was to experiment with the pay by results kind of contract. Like,
yeah,
it'd be a pretty cool thing to experiment with. Get a couple of players and come up with some sort of contract where you can for every round you shoot better than your handicap or something, you get a certain amount back or something like that. It's
Be a cool thing to experiment with. That definitely something that I think I would look into doing just as more of an experiment, more for my own knowledge rather than anything else. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it is that's where if you can set some goals with a player and say, right, we've got 4 months we've got a week, like what can we do to your game before the weekend or before whatever time it is, like coming out of lockdown, we're going to be hopefully into like March, which is horrible July. Feeling, isn't it? Yeah, but if it's March, then like you've still got, there's nothing stopping you like smashing it for March and April, and then coming up ready for the start of this proper summer season, and hopefully playing in events and everything, and competitions and whatnot, and all your match play and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's really good, mate. I've got a couple of. Have you got any other questions or not? Any other?
I'm out of questions. I was just about to come back to you and see if you've got any other notes that you wanted to put out there.
Yeah, I had one or a couple, which was I think we probably covered it a little bit. It was a coach's sort of personality and adapting to players. I think we kind of covered that, like how you deal with different players and expectation from a player and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we covered that one. I think that's for a lot of our clients, we've been teaching for a little while, or most of them are members. So we've had relationships with them in the past. Relationships, you know what I mean? We've had a relationship for a little while. But for someone that we haven't met straight away, that's why that first 5 or 10 minutes is really important, to understand what they want out of lessons, to understand where they want to go with their golf, all the above really, and adapting as a coach, adapting to their needs and wants is probably the hardest part, I would say, but the part I actually really enjoy.
Yeah, it's a people sort of business, isn't it? I think
that's more of a business skill than a golf skill, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a human skill, isn't it? Being able to like talk to somebody and also, giving the lesson to, the brickie who just turns up on a Friday for a half-hour lesson and then wants to go and have a beer with his mates after and just have a chat and a sort of catch-up kind of thing. And then also like someone who takes it a bit more seriously and devotes a lot of time to it and wants as much, as a completely different character around it. And then also the junior, like, you can't teach the same golf lesson to those 3 characters, can you? And that, that's probably why it's such a sort of exciting thing to be able to be lucky enough to sort of do, is because it is always changing and there's always going to be different aspects of, when you take junior golfers, you're not just teaching the junior, you're teaching the parents and stuff as well. It's lots of sort of different avenues and stuff that are all pretty fascinating, aren't they? And it's good.
Nice.
The last 2 was do you remember or could you think about your worst ever lesson that you've given?
Worst ever lesson that I've given. Ooh.
And your best.
You obviously know yours.
I remember my worst, yeah.
I've
I remember my
I've
best.
had I have I can't remember the definite, like the actual what happened in the lesson, but I know who it was with and why it was bad.
Don't say who.
I'm not going to say who it was with, but yeah, I do remember it.
Why was it bad? Why was it bad?
Looking back on it now, it's probably as much my fault as it was the player's fault. For me, it was the feedback, the lack of communication between. I wouldn't say the lack of communication between me and them, but the lack of feedback they were giving me.
Yeah.
And I think as a student, one of the best things that you can do for us coaches is just talk to us and tell us what you're feeling. Tell us whether it feels good or whether it feels bad, because from then we can then make changes to the lesson to help that. I just remember this lesson, it was just so hard trying to get anything back out of them to be able to be able to then relay that back into the lesson. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's it's a two-way thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, it's maybe it's worth going forward, sort of saying, look, this is what you're going to get from me. Like, but I need this from you as well. So, like, if you've had a bad day, or you don't feel like talking, or you're annoyed that you're hitting more bad shots than good ones, then you need to be able to sort of tell me that and understand that we're actually trying to progress something together. I'm not just trying to get you to hit it worse, because a lot of the time people will hit it worse, and that's a really difficult thing, because you'll tell someone to change something in a swing and they'll change it, and they might do the movement correctly, but they've forgotten where the club face is, and they've forgotten where they're trying to hit it, and they're just trying to change the way that they're moving the club, and they miss hit shots, because that throws everything out of sync. And you might miss hit shots at first, but it's like, don't let that get into a spiral where you internalize it, get annoyed at yourself, and then don't give that sort of feedback back,
and then stop having lessons ultimately.
Which
it turns into.
And that kind of comes back to the to the whole thing about kind of being honest, being comfortable enough around someone, and giving that feedback to. You're gonna get those, aren't you? Definitely. And they are tricky, but they're obviously really tricky ones.
What was your worst?
My worst was not long after we opened the studio,
right?
And I had a golfer book in, and again, I hadn't really done that much sort of homework, didn't really know kind of what to expect, and they came along. And obviously I'm like really keen to show off the slow-mo cameras, everything TrackMan can do, and like how cool our new studio is. Like, it was in the first few months of opening or whatever, so like the novelty was still there. I could do all this funky stuff, like, and the golfer just wanted to like hit it a bit higher. Like, that's all they wanted to do, was like, I'm hitting it a bit higher, I want to hit it higher. And anyway, I don't think I was trying to get it too technical. I wasn't being technical. But I was trying to explain about like dynamic loft. I think it was just trying to, and attack angle. That was what it was like. And the speed. So I was trying to show showing club speed, showing dynamic loft, showing attack angle, and then showing how will these things kind of tie in. And obviously just the fact that the numbers are on the screen, the player just went off, just went cold. It was just like, that's right. I don't know what you're talking about. And I kept going like, no, like, listen to me, like, I'm trying to explain this, like, and I am explaining this really simply, like the dynamic loft is just the loft of the club at impact, your attack angle. And I could feel myself getting like, how you get when you're trying to dumb it down, but be like I don't know if it's condescending or not, or just trying to be like.
That's the word I would have used, but I think people know what you mean when you say.
I wasn't being condescending. I was trying to be. I was trying to explain it really simply, but they just had shut off completely. And I just remember sort of thinking that this is going really badly, and they're not getting it. And it's really simple to get. Like, I'm sure if they could start again, they would get it. It's not that complicated. And I was just thinking to myself, why aren't they getting it? This is really easy to get. And so basically, like, I ended up saying, oh, don't worry about that. Like, okay, well, let's just sort of start again, kind of thing. And by that time, I'd lost them pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
so looking back on that now, what would you have done differently? Would it be that first kind of 5-10 minutes you'd have changed, like trying to understand what they wanted to do?
I mean,
more,
again, I would probably have like spoken to them when they booked the lesson over the phone.
Yeah,
you could avoid it from then, couldn't you? Or like if you asked them to, like, even on the way round to the studio or whatever, oh, have you seen a studio before? And they would have probably gone, oh no, I'm a bit nervous about it, really. Like, I've never really been very good on simulators. I think it's a bit like, might be a bit much for me. Oh, would you rather go outside? Yes, please. And then they could have been like a completely different. Oh, well, there's the tree. Try and hit it higher than the tree. Move the ball position.
Yeah.
If you move the ball position a little forward or whatever, you probably start hitting it higher, because you're going to be able to get under the ball more and hit up on it, or whatever. We wouldn't even say hit up on it or present more dynamic loft. You wouldn't say anything like that. Just hit underneath it and put the ball position forward, and you hit it over the tree. Yeah. And that, so it's that kind of, it's the understanding of like, we don't have to try and convince everybody that to do the things the way we want to do them, And I think that was, I remember it really clearly, quite vividly. Like, it wasn't, again, we still get on. I still know the person, like, we still get on well and stuff. Like, I just remember it being a little bit like, I don't know. I remember coming away from it thinking, man, that did not go well. Like, that was didn't go well at all.
That's a horrible feeling.
Yeah. Luckily, I mean, it doesn't happen most of the time. I'd like to think most people kind of go away with a better understanding of it. And also, I think there are times when you do want to explain things a little bit more sort of thoroughly, and you want to be able to tell them like why something's happening and what's going on. And most people kind of, especially now, like people watching more YouTube videos with launch monitor numbers and stuff, people have got a bit more of an understanding about those kind of things. But it was, you learn more from your bad ones, though, don't you? It's like your bad rounds,
of course,
you learn more.
And the one thing to remember as well is that at that stage we were in the start/middle of our training course, weren't we? Therefore, like, we hadn't had lots of experience, and we hadn't been in that situation as much as what we have now. So that makes us the coaches that we are.
I mean, you still you still haven't had much experience in the grand scheme of things. You think of like, there's guys out there who've like taught for 30 years and they're still like evolving the way that they teach. And definitely you think like as an assistant, like, or whatever, as a young pro still now, like you kind of go, I want to tell, like, I've got a lesson, I've got an opportunity to tell them everything I know, everything. Just learn in like in the training course. Like, I've got to tell them, like, I've got so much to be able to talk about. And that I would probably say that's the thing that I struggle with. Probably you can tell, like, just going on tangents, rambling, talking about going down loads of different avenues and go, oh yeah, we were talking about your grip. Yeah, sort that out. Move your grip a little bit. And you end up realizing I've just been talking like 20 minutes about like pre-shot routine. And and it's we're trying to change the guy's grip. But I mean, it's you learn. Golf's a learning game, isn't it? Everyone's learning at their own paces at different areas, aren't they? So absolutely, it's great, mate. That's what it's all about. Just got to get out on the golf course.
Get out on the golf course.
Get back to work. Driving me insane.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's a long time coming. It feels like it's what's this, our third week now or fourth week?
We're into the fourth week, aren't we?
Yeah, it's just gone. I can't wait to be able to get back, either play golf myself or teach or whatever it may be in the shop or whatever. I can't wait. I'm sure everyone on the other side of the screen's exactly the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shall we?
Is that us then? What time is it? Yeah, it's done a little stint there, haven't we?
Good stint. Yeah, just thanks again to everyone for listening out, and fire over any questions you've got. Give us some feedback. Obviously, we're always happy to hear from you, and got plenty more ideas and stuff to come. So let me know if you want me to caddy for you for 9 holes, and maybe it might make me eat my words, but I'm up for it. Just let us know, give us a shout, and we'll get you sorted out and have a look at you. All good.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Jacob.
mate.
I'll catch you in a bit.
See you later, mate. All right, bye.